So now we're getting somewhere. So this time round, sponsors came on board, and it wasn't just like, you know, it was actually from international areas as well. Like, Chad, you want to talk about Vans?
Yeah. A sponsor that will remain nameless, I had an interesting conversation with, and I spoke to the local distributors. It's, with most industries in Australia, they're set up as distribution rather than industries within themselves. So you find in most of you are wearing items of clothing tonight that are international brands that are either licensed or imported and distributed locally. And that's kind of how the Australian market works. So it's really hard to get local companies to understand how to commit to something and foster something and help something grow. They just don't have that knowledge because they don't start the company from the ground up. So you go to companies over here and say, look, we're trying to do something, can you support us? And they're like, oh, not our thing really, you know. So I was lucky that I knew somebody very high up at Home Office who was very integral in starting this company. And so after I'd had the disappointing conversation here, I called them and I said, look, you said if I ever had something good, you'd be interested in coming on board. Well, I think I've got something. And they said, you know what, I think you do too. No worries, we'll get the Australian reps to give you a call tomorrow. So the following day, the Australian distributor called me and said, hey, we hear you've got an event. Yeah. We'd love to support it. And I had to pretend that I'd never spoken to them before and it was a whole new conversation. Anyway. But through that, they came on board, and that's the model that we've followed since, is that we realised that we're not going to get the support locally for an event of this scale and this type. So we go to head office, wherever that is overseas, and they're the ones with the vision and the understanding. They then say, okay, we're in, we'll back the event. They then contact the local distributors and get them on board. And so it's kind of, we're not just going to people and saying, hey, give us a check, give us your logo. We're kind of holding their hand through the process and teaching them how to approach things in a different way too. So there's been a bit of a educational process from our side of things.
So look, more money meant better infrastructure, and basically, once again, we were still nervous. We're nervous every year. We, you know, up until the night before, you don't know who's going to turn up. So that's another thing. But once again, we surprised ourselves. It was it was a blue sky day, and lots of people turned up, and the action was amazing. And
we put in stands this year, which was great. You know, that changed the whole vibe of the thing, and it made everything run a little bit smoother. And we also introduced a Masters series. This is Christian Hosoi and Lance Mountain, two of the most famous skateboarders of the last 30 years. And with introducing the Masters series, everyone's like, oh, the old guys, you know. But that's actually turned out to be the most popular part of the event, and it's actually changed how our event was perceived and changed the media, because there's a lot of people that ride skateboards or used to ride skateboards when they were younger, and when they heard that we were doing the Masters, there were all these guys that used to ride skateboards when they were kids that are now in the media, and they were calling us up, hey, we hear you've got Christian Hosoi, can we get an interview? Yep. Just so they could come and meet their childhood hero. So we actually started getting all this mainstream media coverage, which was...
Look, you've got to have a good product, and definitely having the Masters there and having big name riders meant that great. We had something to sell and get more media out there, and it exploded. Really did that year. Had plenty of coverage through all these different channels, so it was great. So now we move on to year 4, and look, at this stage we're thinking, God, the council must love us. They must think we're great, but it wasn't like that. And this is something that I've sort of missed a few times here. Every year they made us re-pitch on our own event, and go through the process, and then every year they'd only give us probably
they'd give us permission at the beginning of December for an event in February.
Yeah, so it's like, the time, people's budgets are all planned out the year before. We learnt that pretty early on. And, the council only giving us permission 2 to 3 months before the event, it gave us no lead time to sell it.
Yeah, because you have those meetings with them and you're trying to work it all out, and they're telling you what's wrong with the event, why they think it might not go ahead, and they're like, well, you know, there's some problems with your infrastructure, there's some problems with your security, you need to do this, you need to do that. And so, well,
another
that's
traffic
good.
report.
Yeah, another traffic report. But you need money and time to make those things happen. If they give you permission at the beginning of December for an event that's in the middle of February, that effectively gives you 3 weeks to sell the event, because as we all know, people in Australia go on holiday on Christmas Eve, and no one bothers, even if they're back at work, no one bothers doing anything till after Australia Day. So we can't actually do anything proactive towards the event, and then all of a sudden we're after Australia Day and our event's in 3 weeks, so we can't do it. And we just kept saying, this is impossible, you know. You need to give us more time so we can do the things you're saying we're not doing properly.
So look, this is a bit of a little whinge area. This is the part where we compare ourselves to Wellington Council. So, you know, Wellington basically heard about what we were doing in Sydney, and they said, hey, we love what you're doing at Bondi. Can you do it in Wellington? We're like, oh, well, yeah, it's pretty hard work, you know, da-da-da. They go, no, we'll pay for everything. We'll pay for this, we'll pay for that. And we were just like, yep, we're in. Like, this is... We were stoked. And look, I just want to... We're bringing this up to highlight the difference between the two councils. Yes, Bondi is... it's a very popular and iconic place of Australia, but really, the support we get in Wellington, it's chalk and cheese. Bondi has every year made us go back through, or Waverley Council has made us go back through all the loops, jump all the loops and do it.
Wellington City Council cover all infrastructure costs. They let our event run on their public liability insurance. They provide first aid, security, all this stuff, plus they put money in our pocket to put on the event. And this was the first year. This also happened to be the first year that Waverley Council actually gave us permission early enough to sell the event. And when they did it, they said, okay, these are the guidelines, this is what we're sticking to. And I think it was in June they gave us permission. We're like, great, this is fantastic. So we're doing all this stuff, and then Wellington comes up, and we're like, wow, Wellington's giving us this, Bondi's giving us that. And just when we thought, well, we'll deal with this, Waverley Council turned around and doubled our site rental fee and then made us pay for the bump-in day that we're not allowed to do anything on as well. And it's like, you know, the whole time we're doing a free community event.
Yeah, so I guess it's like this. We weren't making money, and just when we thought we were about to make some money, it's, oh yeah, we're putting the rent up, and we're like, oh God, here we go again. So look, it wasn't about making money, and basically we weren't that worried, but you know, we were actually putting in our own time and our own money, and you know, so it was an inconvenience. But we love doing it, and look, you can just see New Zealand and Bondi were both amazing events this year. So.